Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 245. For this one, we're back at the Beau Rivage. We're playing a 2-5 session during the $1 million heater, but the stakes aren't really indicative of how big these pots are because they're uncapped games and things just get massive. You guys are gonna love it. But before we get started, a couple of announcements to make. The first one is that I'm going out to Vietnam for the Triton series. I'll be there March 1st through March 7th. I'm playing the $15,000 event. It's event number 2. If you're out there, feel free to come up and say hi. From there, I'm going out to Cambodia with Andrew for the WPT series. I'll be there for at least 2 weeks, and I'm gonna be firing nearly everything during that WPT series. So that's gonna be awesome. Hopefully I can take down one of those events and get a WPT trophy on the back wall here. We're doing a meetup game March 15th. So if you're able to make it to Cambodia, then yeah, come out there, play with Andrew and I, and it should be a really good time. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. We're in Biloxi, Mississippi to absolutely destroy people in poker, but it's important to explore the surrounding area as well. We see the town one night and do a little bar hopping. It's cool to listen to some local live musicians. Andrew and I even randomly run into a few viewers while we're out and about.
I don't know if this is a video or photo or anything. Really.
You're doing great.
Let's go.
Let's go. Straight to the Beau. It's nicknamed the Bellagio of the South, but the action is 10 times wilder, as you'll see. We get called for the 2-5 game and buy-in for $3,000. That isn't the maximum because the buy-in is uncapped here. There are a handful of other big stacks at the table, including Andrew Nemes. He's also at the table with us. We begin the session at 9 p.m. on the dot. Almost a half hour in, we pick up pocket queens in the small blind. The straddle's on to 10. Under the gun +1 raises to 30. Under the gun +2 calls. The middle position player calls as well. It's kind of a tricky spot since it's an early position raiser followed by 2 callers. If we call the 30, we reduce the variance but basically turn our pair of queens into pocket deuces. It's not ideal. We're going the high variance route with the 3-bet to 210. If we were in another state, I would have made it 180, but people don't fold in Mississippi, so I tacked on $30 extra for state tax. The big blind immediately cold calls at 210, leaving himself with 1,400 behind. Under the gun +1 folds. Under the gun +2 calls. The middle position player also calls. Perhaps I should have made it 300. I wasn't anticipating getting called by 3 players. Right away we're playing nearly a $900 pot with 3 opponents, and the flop hasn't even come out yet. This would be a fun one to win. The dealer puts out King 8-5 with 2 clubs. That's about as disappointing as it gets when we're first to act. We're sort of handcuffed here. At this point, it'd just be nice to get the showdown as cheaply as possible. I check with plans of folding to any reasonably sized bet. No one takes a stab at it. The opponents all check. Queens may be the best hand if everyone else has ace highs or lower pocket pairs that didn't connect. We each get a free spin, but it's us who hits the jackpot on the turn with the queen of diamonds coming out. We've got a set in a dream situation. It's time for us to go for value. I bet 375. It's a smaller sizing because no one showed any interest on the flop after we checked, so I doubt anyone has much or else they would have bet. The queen definitely didn't help anyone since 3 of them are accounted for. Maybe I'm wrong though. The big blind calls. A second diamond came out, so maybe the big blind has a flush draw of some sort. Under the gun +2 has more sense in him. He folds. We won't be seeing a river heads up because the middle position player also calls. It's allergy season out here and nearly every opponent is showing symptoms. They all seem to be allergic to folding. 3 of us are still in. We don't want to see any club or diamond. The river is the 10 of spades. It's relatively safe unless we're somehow up against ace-jack or jack-9 of clubs or diamonds. The 2 opponents each have between 1,000 and 1,100. There's only one move to make when the pot is this large, and we're as strong as we are.
All in.
The big blind appears to be in complete agony. He seemingly hates the spot that he's found himself in. I'm not sure if he's Hollywooding just to call and possibly induce a call from the middle position player, or if he's genuinely disgusted about this decision. Finally, he reveals what's going on in his head. The big blind calls for 1,025. The middle position player folds. We don't have king queen. We show that we've got better than that. A set of queens is the best hand. The big blind is frustrated and shows that he has pocket aces, which is one of the last hands I would have put him on. He slow played it twice and gets completely torched for it. Not only did he just flat our 3-bet pre-flop, he also checked on the flop after I checked as the pre-flop aggressor. He allows 3 opponents a chance to improve. We get there to win a big all-in pot. In general, it's best to never slow play strong holdings in smaller stakes games. We capitalize on the mistake and are now up over $2,000 less than 30 minutes in. Next, we've got ace-king offsuit in the big blind. Under the gun limps in for 5. Under the gun +1 says, I'll have what he's having. He limps in as well. The player in middle position is going to punish him. He raises to 30 and has the next biggest stack after ours. The hijack calls. The cutoff wants to get in there. He calls as well. There's a similar start to the queen's hand. We'll be making it more. I 3-bet to 150 to punish the person who's trying to punish the limpers. The big blind and under the gun fold. The action's back on the initial pre-flop raiser. He's not going down without a fight today. He puts in the 4-bet to 500 in order to punish the person who's trying to punish the punisher. That's unfortunately me. The hijack folds. Shortly after that, the cutoff folds. I'm sure they both had phenomenal hold cards that they would have loved to see a flop with, like 10-7 suited, but it's been narrowed down to the real hands. We started this with a whopping 800 big blinds effective. It's not a situation that I'm in all that often. I don't really want to get it all in for $4,000 at the moment. I call for 350 more to see what the flop brings. It's heads up, we're out of position, and there's well over 1,000 in the middle. The flop comes 8-5-5 rainbow. We don't make a pair. Maybe that's best if we're up against aces or kings anyway. I check to the 4-better. He considers his options. I prefer that he considers letting us see a free card a bit more. Instead, he fires for 400. Well, that isn't great. There are only 6 total combos of aces or kings that our opponent could have. That's what he's representing when he 4-bets us pre-flop and continues firing on the flop. There are 9 total combos of ace-king that he could have, so it's 50% more likely that we're up against ace-king and are tied than it is that we're beat by one of those overpairs. There are a couple of other issues. One is that ace-5 suited is one of the few 4-bet bluff combos that opponents regularly mix into the pre-flop strategy. If he has that, we're almost drawing near dead. The same is true if he has pocket aces. If he has pocket kings, we're drawing slim. Although I think it's likely that we both have ace-king, it's more important to cut our losses and avoid those disaster situations when we're putting money in totally crushed.
I think we have the same hand, but I'm just going to go ahead and fold. You win, you win. Same hand? Yeah.
The opponent shows for the vlog that he gets us off the chop. He wins a big pot in the process. It hurts when that's the case. There weren't any options that I liked all that much though. The very next hand, we've got Jack-10 suited in the small blind. The hijack raises to 30. Andrew Nemi calls in the cutoff. The button calls. We call one time. The big blind also calls. We're going 5 ways to the flop. It comes ace-10-10 rainbow. We've got trips, with plenty of candidates to pay us off. I check. Unfortunately, the opponents check as well. The turn is the 3 of diamonds, putting a flush draw on the board. We can't let people see any more free cards. I bet 65 for value. The big blind folds. The hijack might suspect that we're attempting some sort of absurd bluff. He calls. Andrew calls in the cutoff. The button is all of a sudden gonna rep a monster. She raises to 250. She'll never have pocket aces, and there's only 110 left in the deck. I guess she could have pocket 3s, but it seems just likely or more that she could be bluffing with a draw of some sort. I call for an additional 185. The hijack folds. Andrew isn't quick to let go. He hangs in there with the call as well. 3 of us are still in. The river is the 7 of spades. It's a blank. I check. Andrew checks. The button only has 465 total. She jams. I get a count. I don't like this very much, particularly with Andrew behind us. He might have a 10. I don't think he's got us beat though. I get more of the sense that he might have also had a flush draw. If this jam were for a little more, I'd be more inclined to fold. I call in this instance. Andrew folds immediately. The button is concerned that we have ace-10. She doesn't have to worry about that. She shows pocket 3s for a tiny boat. It's good enough for her to get well over a double up. Andrew would later tell me that he folded 10-8 of diamonds. Why he checked trips on the flop to allow the button to make a full house, I'm not sure that we'll ever know. 2 hands in a row, we lose several $100s. Andrew and I are now even after I torched our tag team buy-in during the 2018 WSOP. We got off to a great start. Currently, we're only up about 1,000. We're up stuck when we look down at ace-jack offsuit middle position just a few hands later. I raise to 20. The hijack wants to get involved. He calls. He's the same guy who slow played the aces against us earlier. The cutoff also calls. We're going 3 ways to the flop out of position. It comes Jack-6-5 with 2 hearts. We've got top, and we're first to act. We're going to need protection against kings and queens coming out, as well as flush and straight draws. I bet 50. The hijack must be out for revenge. He jams in our face for 380 total. The cutoff folds. We get the count. We've seen this opponent play some hands in unorthodox ways in the past. Maybe we're up against a better hand, maybe we're up against a draw or a worse jack. I really don't want to lose a third big hand in a row, but I can't find the fold. We grab more black chips than what's required and make the call. If we're beat, we're beat. I definitely don't want to see any more hearts come out, and probably no cards like a queen in case we're up against a queen-jack type of hand. The turn is the 6 of hearts. That's awful for us, especially because we don't know where the ace of hearts is. But wait, it gets worse. The river is the queen of clubs. It's difficult to imagine us winning this pot. The cutoff confirms our suspicions that he does do some unorthodox stuff as he turns over pocket tens. I wasn't expecting to see that, but I'm happy. We've got the winner with second pair to scoop another all-in pot. It's the second time that we stack the same player. He's not running well against us. We get some momentum back though. 20 minutes later, we get the ladies again. We're in the small blind. The hijack raises to 25. Andrew's in the cutoff. He likes his hand and he 3-bets to 75. It's another uncomfortable spot for us. I don't really like any of our choices all that much. Folding the third best hand in poker is ridiculous, but it would allow us to avoid playing a large pot out of position when we could be beat. Calling seems fine, but we would still be playing a large pot out of position. If we don't hit a set, it could be tough to extract much value, and it seems like we're under-repping our premium hand by flatting the 3-bet. Cold 4-betting is an extremely strong play. It allows us to potentially win the pot without even seeing a flop, and it's just fun to cold 4-bet your friends occasionally. The only downside is that our opponents have already shown some strength, so if we happen to run into a hand that's stronger than ours, we're probably going to lose a lot of extra money. We're going for the 4-bet anyway. I make it 275 to go. If the opponents were in earlier positions, I'd be less inclined to cold 4-bet into what should be narrower ranges. The hijack folds. Andrew is more reluctant to let go. He 5-bet jams for 2,200 total. Wow. Okay, no he doesn't. He folds as well. We show him that he made the good laydown. We weren't just making a move. Things are going in the right direction again. Here we pick up ace-jack offsuit in the hijack. I raise to 20. The button is the only caller. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes ace-8-5 rainbow. It's decent for us. We've got top pair with an alright kicker. I check to mix things up though. The button loves pain. He bets 35. It's a larger sizing. Still, we're not going to strand our top pair. I call to keep the opponent's bluffs in. The turn is the king of diamonds. It's theoretically a better card for us. I check. The button isn't feeling as confident anymore. He checks back, capping his range at a 1-pair type of hand. The river is another 8. I don't like seeing it because our kicker no longer plays. Also, trip 8s beats us, but I don't know if the opponent would necessarily bet an 8 on the flop. I bet 50 without having a great reason for it because worse hands probably aren't calling unless the opponent has a pair of kings. The button unexpectedly raises to 175. Maybe he's trying to get me off a chop if he also has an ace with a kicker that doesn't play. There's a weird spot to do it though because I can have hands like pocket aces, pocket kings, and ace king that he won't have. Going back to the same principles in that ace king versus ace king hand earlier, it's better to avoid calling bets and raises when it's likely that the best outcome is a chop. I don't take my own advice, and I call because I'm an idiot and a non-believer. The button shows that he wrecks my world with 10-8 of diamonds and takes me to the town of value at trips. That's a situation in which I know I should fold. I make an undisciplined call and lose more than I needed to. Only minutes go by when I pick up ace-3 offsuit in the big blind. Andrew's on the button. He raises to 15. The small blind calls. It's only 10 more for us. We call to defend. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It comes ace-queen-3 rainbow. We've got top and bottom pair. The small blind checks. We check as well. This is a flop that will generally be much better for Andrews, the pre-flop aggressor, with 2 Broadway cards out there. He bets 20. The small blind folds. I don't want to give away the strength of our hand just yet. I call to allow Andrew the opportunity to keep firing if he has air. The turn is the 8 of hearts. It's relatively blank. I check. Andrew either has a strong hand or is trying his best to push us off ours with nothing. He bets 65. I doubt he'd be doing this with too many 1-pair hands. It'll mostly either be 2-pair or better hands, or maybe something like Jack 10 that has no showdown value but has a draw to the nuts. The only type of hand I see calling a check raise from us that's worse is maybe ace king or ace jack. We call to continue trapping him. The river is another 3, giving us a full house. I check. One thing that I have to say about Andrew that not everyone knows is that he really has a heart of gold. He's always extremely charitable. In this instance, he donates $275 to the charity for lanky white guys. It's well over a pot-sized bet. Huge thank you goes out to Andrew. We call. Andrew turns over a deuce, confirming that we have the best hand and that he has nothing. Bears. beats Battlestar Galactica. Boats, beat, whatever Andrew has, we get the win. Having a poker YouTube channel definitely has its perks. Sometimes people just do crazy things against you to make the vlog. Next we've got Pocket Queens on the button. Under the gun +2 raises to 25. He's been a real wild card. The player in middle position calls. This is the third time we've gotten queens tonight. We're gonna make him count. I 3-bet to 100. The player on our left basically snap calls despite only having 130 behind. Note that this is a different player than the person who slow played aces against us earlier. Under the gun +2 calls. The middle position player calls. We're somehow in another 4-way 3-bet pot with pocket queens. We won't be hitting a set on the turn though. We hit it right on the flop. It comes queen 6-3 with 2 hearts. We currently have the best hand possible. The small blind checks. Under the gun +2 doesn't care who the pre-flop aggressor was. He shows us who's boss by betting 200. The player in middle position folds. I don't want to scare off the under the gun +2 player. He probably has a flush draw. As long as the heart doesn't come on the turn, I'll make a move at that point. We'll be last to act anyway, so we won't have to worry about it checking through on the turn. I call the 200. The small blind doesn't have enough in his stack to call the full amount. He's all in for 130 total. 3 of us are still in, but I really want to stack the under the gun +2 player who started the hand with over 3,000 in front of him. The dealer puts out the deuce of hearts. It's an awful card because one of the 2 opponents almost for sure has a flush. Under the gun +2 bets 300 into almost a dry side pot. Not great, but if we're currently beat, we'll have 10 outs to make a boat or quads. I call to see if we can accomplish that goal. The river is the queen of spades, giving us 4 of a kind. Usually, I try not to brag, but there's a special occasion in which we've gotten all the ladies here and we're about to get all the money in this pot. I'm hoping that under the gun +2 has the ace-high flush or a full house and is about to do something crazy. He's wearing some LSU gear. I've seen people in LSU gear do some crazy things before, like fake southern accents as they address the student body. But there's no shenanigans now. The opponent checks. We're going to go with a large sizing to target flushes and full houses because I don't see us getting called by anything worse. I consider putting in a huge overbet jam because we'll actually never have a full house on this board after 3-betting pre-flop, and the fact that we didn't raise on the flop with top set may reduce the likelihood in the opponent's mind that we could have quads. Ripping is probably overkill. It'd be a disaster if the opponent somehow did fold a flush. I make it a more reasonable 1,500. Even this amount might be too much. It doesn't appear that under the gun +2 has a flush or a full house. He folds what he says is pocket kings. We turn over the quads to win the side pot and the main pot.
Oh, wow. It'd be hard to beat that. Yeah. You made the vlog, dude. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Make the vlog there?
Yeah.
Hey, can you give me a shout out?
We'll see. What's your name?
Philip. I go by Ray.
Ray gets absolutely destroyed by quads. He could have done it anonymously, but that's not in Ray's DNA. He prefers for you guys all to know that Philip, aka Ray, gets stacked by us towards the end of the session before we rack up and call it a night. That wraps up my trip out here at the Beau Rivage, special place. I won $26.50 over 4 hours, ran really well. Could have done a few things differently to actually make some more money, so a bit kind of upset with myself over some different things. Maybe I could have gotten away from that trip 10's hand versus the full house, especially with Andrew still left acts behind me, but overall, you know, feel really good about winning a couple $1,000s tonight, so I'm gonna head back to Vegas now. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. Thanks a lot to the Beau Rivage. I just had a great time out there. Such a cool, unique place. Not somewhere that people would necessarily think to go to play poker, but action is amazing, especially during a big tournament series like the $1 Million Heater. So be on the lookout for for events like that at that property going forward. We've got the Lodge relaunch week going on right now. So I filmed this before, you know, I've taken my trip to Austin, and it's very possible that I'm just getting completely torched right now. Hopefully that's not the case, but just such huge games. 50, 100, and 200, 400 no limit with antes and straddles in Texas. Just crazy stuff. So I'm excited and you know, nervous for all of those sessions. Let's see here. We've got the Triton series coming up in Vietnam. I'll be there from March 1st to March 7th. And then we're going out to Cambodia with WPT. I'll be there until March 22nd, I believe. So I'll be there for a long time. And we're doing a meetup game March 15th. So that series is going to be awesome. There are buy-ins of all different amounts. I'm going to be playing a 10K, a 5K, and then they have their prime event as well. That's an $1,100 one. So I'm going to be firing everything, and even some smaller ones that are a couple $100. So that should be cool. And special shout out to Public Rec, who gave me this hoodie. They have a bunch of really cool clothes. This is actually my favorite hoodie that I own right now. So I have a link in the description box down below to their website. Be sure to check that out. And there is a discount code that will be included in the description as well. So be sure to use that if you purchase anything from Public Rec. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're staying safe. And I hope Mike Matisow doesn't hold anything against me. Apologies to him. And see you guys next time. Good luck at the tables.